Today's Sunday school lesson is from Proverbs 23, verses 17 through 21, and verses 29 through 35. The title of our lesson is Staying Sober. Our first section is broke out with the title The Promise. Verses 17 through 18, we are told, instead of seeking the lifestyle of the sinner, we should seek to please the Lord, whose promises we can rely on. Second section, the petition, continuing 19 through 21, Solomon petitions to be heard and begins a warning on the woes of substance abuse. Our third section, titled The Portrait, Solomon gives us a riddle. We've observed several items that Solomon has utilized in the writings to help us to learn. This time he helps us to learn by presenting a riddle. And then our last section, verses 33 through 35, Solomon gives one more view of the effects of alcohol on judgment and physical impairment, urging his listener to refrain from substance abuse. Our memory verse, Proverbs 23:19, Hear thou, my son, and be wise, and guide thine heart in the way. Key doctrine, God the Father is fatherly in his attitude toward all men, and the scripture text supporting that doctrine is Deuteronomy 32:6. Looking at our first section, the promise, Proverbs 23:17 through 18, Let not thine heart envy sinners, but be thou in the fear of the Lord all the day long, for surely there is an end, and thine expectation shall not be cut off. One of the things we learn in life is the effect of a vacuum. If you remove something, it will be replaced by something else, either intentionally or through natural backfill. What should envy of sinners be replaced with? Obviously, looking at our text, the answer is the fear of the Lord. At what point should we fear the Lord? All points, all the day long. Why was this to be an all-the-time action? We do not want to leave a void in our life that could be filled with envy over the way of sinners. Hope in the Lord is a hope that will not fail us. The CSB reads in verse 18, For then you will have a future, and your hope will not be dashed. Our second section, the petition, Proverbs 23:19 through 21. Hear thou, my son, and be wise, and guide thine heart in the way. Be not among winebibbers, among riotous eaters of flesh. For the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man in rags. Why would gluttony and drunkenness be closely associated? Are they, as our writer asks, two approaches to dealing with the same issues? In many cases they are. For me, being able to eat the most has always been a point of pride. But as I grow older, I discover digestive ailments that are worsened by consuming more than I need. Note, I did not say too much. I said more than I need. The pleasure of enjoying a good meal with friends should not demand that we keep eating. When we carefully consider the effects of both, the drunkenness and the gluttony, they do have similar effects. Looking again at this section, we see Solomon's approach to learning. He provides a structured petition and a rationale for this petition. In the structured petition, he calls on the hearer to listen. He calls on them to be wise. And as I looked at that, I thought, is he saying to listen and be wise, or is he saying that be wise and listen? Or so there's a couple of ways of looking at that. He says to follow the right course. And he says to separate yourself from drunkards, separate yourself from gluttons. And then his rationale for the petition is both the drunkard and the glutton will become poor. And why will they become poor? Because of a lack of energy, whether from hangover or an overfull gut. That will inhibit productivity. Right now, I have just got back from my lunch, and I would like to lay down and take a nap. So I can identify with the gluttony. I ate a little bit more than I should have, but I didn't eat too much today. The portrait, Proverbs 23:29 through 32. Who hath woe? Who hath sorrow? Who hath contentions? Who hath babbling? Who hath wounds without cause? Who hath redness of eyes? They that tarry long at the wine, they that go to seek mixed wine. Look not upon the wine when it is red, when it giveth his colour in the cup, when it moveth itself aright. At the last it biteth like a serpent, and stingeth like an adder. Solomon presents a riddle to drive home a point, to ensure this is not forgotten. Who has all the characteristics of the riddle? Who has woe, sorrow, contentions, babbling, wounds without cause, redness of eyes? And he answers, they that tarry long at the wine, they that go to seek mixed wine. After answering the riddle, Solomon warns that the desire of the subject of his riddle, the desire of the one that tarries long at the wine, the desire of the drunkard, is the reason for their condition. What they desire is what causes their condition, as described by the riddle by comparing fermented drinks to the venom of snakes. Our last section, the problem, verses 33 through 35. Thine eyes shall behold strange women, and thine heart shall utter perverse things. Yea, thou shalt be as he that lieth down in the midst of the sea, or as he that lieth upon the top of a mast. They have stricken me, shalt thou say, and I was not sick. They have beaten me, and I felt it not. When shall I awake? I will seek it yet again. As we consider those verses, we see three items. Solomon presents an additional plea by rehearsing some of the effects of intoxication: loss of rational thought, loss of physical capabilities, and addiction. So as we look at that, loss of rational thought, I thought of Lot's condition when he was drunken and the acts that he portrayed with his daughters. It's recorded in Genesis 19:32 through 36. And we look at our verse, it says, eyes shall behold strange women, thine heart shall utter perverse things. Loss of physical capabilities. If you've ever tried to lay down in the waves at the Gulf, you'll recognize that they'll drag you around and push you in directions you didn't intend to go. Well, thou shalt be as he that lieth down in the midst of the sea, or as he that lieth upon the top of a mast. You won't have stability. Your physical capabilities will be inhibited. They have stricken me, shalt thou say, and I was not sick. They have beaten me, and I felt it not. When shall I awake? So another characteristic of a drunkard would be that they might have wounds and injuries that they don't remember how they got there. And the curious thing is that this person who has gone through this will seek it yet again. We call that addiction, someone who goes back to an item over and over again. There's a I was listening to Adrian Rogers here in the last couple of weeks, and he recording of a sermon that he preached years ago. First, the man takes a drink, then the drink takes a drink, and then the drink takes the man. I looked that up, and it's a Japanese proverb that was made famous in a poem around 1886, according to the article that I looked at. Addiction. The three problems are loss of rational thought, loss of physical capabilities, and addiction. Do you think substance abuse is a real danger today? Absolutely. Uh, uh, I could get into a lot of things that have happened that I would say were directly related to substance abuse. Why do you think the liquor stores were not closed when so many other businesses were either closed or greatly restricted in the past few months? Interesting question. I've heard that asked of some politicians, and it was a stammering response. How do you justify that? Uh, how can we help our own family and friends with substance abuse? I think as we become more reliant upon the Lord and look less to substances ourselves, then we can testify to the peace that we have in God's ability to comfort us and to guide us and to give us what we need through troubling times. What ways can we as a group of believers positively influence sober lifestyles for one another and for our community, same as we would our family, our testimony, and our own actions? As we sum up the study for the week, staying sober, we can, by fear God and trust Him, that is a method of ensuring that we stay sober. We are to be in the world, but not of the world. We should seek out godly friends with whom we share a pursuit of a godly lifestyle. Intoxication creates a destructive lifestyle inconsistent with a life filled with the Spirit. Opening the door of substance abuse opens a cycle of addiction and path of destruction. Looking forward to next week. Our scripture text will be Proverbs 29, 1 through 3, and 12 through 20. Our memory verse, Proverbs 13:1, a wise son heareth his father's instruction, but a scorner heareth not rebuke. Our key doctrine will be family. Thanks, and we'll talk to you later.